Hello, and welcome back to the BCR Dawson sub, and another in my series of equipment videos dedicated to modeling the locomotives and rolling stock seen on my layout. These videos will review the prototype equipment seen on the British Columbia Railway during the 1970s, and my efforts to model it in N-scale. Where possible, I will also offer comments with respect to HO scale options for these cars. In this video, we're going to look at the trailer flat cars owned and operated by the British Columbia Railway during the 1970s. Some of these cars were purchased by the Pacific Great Eastern Railway, and further purchases were made by the British Columbia Railway after 1972. As early as 1952, the railway was hauling trailers on some of its 41-foot flat cars. The trailers were basically chained down onto the flat car, and there were no other modifications. In 1960 and 1961, a total of 31 cars were converted into dedicated trailer flat cars from their NSC-built standard flat cars. These were followed by 6 successive orders for twin trailer flat cars between 1961 and 1975, as well as numerous orders for the railway's own trailers, and I will cover the railway's highway trailer fleet in a future video. These cars comprised the railway's trailer car fleet until the 1980s, when BC Rail converted additional cars from standard flat cars. And then in the 1990s, BC Rail would order sets of articulated trailer flat cars to augment their fleet. Most of the cars you see listed here served until the withdrawal of TOFC service in 2002. The first series of trailer flat cars were converted from 52'6", 70-ton flat cars, which had been received from National Steel Car in 1954. The conversions were undertaken at Squamish, and they included the addition of end aprons, trailer hitches, reinforcing plates under the trailer landing gear, and side rub rails. This photograph shows 4 of the newly converted cars at North Vancouver in 1958, with the initial apron and hinge arrangements. These cars were tested in service, after which the aprons and hinges were redesigned. The cars were eventually renumbered into the 7000 series, and 31 cars were ultimately converted. This later photograph shows one of the cars during the 1970s or early 1980s with the redesigned aprons and hinges. Most of these cars continued in PG livery into the late 1970s or early 1980s. This car is carrying a Labatt's refrigerated trailer. These were 45 feet in length with a lower height and a belly axle due to the weight of the product they carried. They were seen regularly on the railway into the 1980s, shipping beverage products to northern communities. The BCR also shipped trailers for Canada Safeway and Vancamp Freightways, as well as its own fleet of trailers. Several of these cars, including the one you see here, 7030, had the hitches moved to accommodate 45-foot trailers. This photograph from 1987 shows a car repainted into the British Columbia Railway dark green scheme. It's carrying a BCR 40-foot heater van with side door. These cars served the railway until the late 1980s. Briggs Models offered a 3D printed kit for these cars in HO and N scales, and while currently unavailable at the time that I'm publishing this video, they are expected to be available again at some point in the future. In HO scale, the Proto 1000 52'6" flat car is not far off, and I've seen it used by some modelers to represent these cars. This image illustrates the Briggs Models N-scale kit, which includes the car body, underframe, aprons and hitches, the steel weight, and an etched detail fret. This next view shows the car body completed with various printed and etched parts from the kit, and the weight and the underframe yet to be installed. These kits go together easily and quickly, and they make a nice model. I built 6 cars from this kit, and as I am modeling 1977, I finished 5 in the PGE scheme and 1 in the BCR scheme. BCOL 7016 was likely the first car to be repainted, and it was listed as such in 1978 equipment register. And here are the 6 completed cars. 3 are pictured with trailers, including a Labatt's refrigerated trailer, a BCR refrigerated trailer, and a BCR flat deck trailer. The railway's fleet of twin trailer flat cars are a significant challenge for modelers in either scale, as the designs of the various cars were all unique to the railway, and they incorporate numerous design differences from other cars represented by available models. At present, the only realistic option for accurate models of these cars is scratch building. The first series comprised 6 cars, and they were built by Canadian Car and Foundry in 1961. They were the first twin trailer flat cars in Canada, and they were the railway's first purpose-built cars. The length over the end sills was 85 feet, so they could accommodate 2 40-foot trailers. The primary differences from contemporary designs, such as those by American Car and Foundry, included a significantly shorter distance between truck centers and having both aprons at one end. The cars arrived in a black livery with yellow highlights, and they were numbered 7100 to 7105. They served until the late 1990s. This photograph shows PGE 7100 at North Vancouver in 1973, and it's carrying 2 BCR 40-foot dry van trailers. So due to their 85-foot length, these cars could only carry 1 or 2 40-foot trailers or a single 45-foot trailer. In practice, the 45-foot trailers were typically carried on the 52-foot 6 flat cars, and that was to avoid losing a hitch space. And in this undated photograph, we see the same car now repainted into the BCR light green scheme, out of service at Squamish and awaiting scrapping. I think this is probably in the 1990s sometime. This repaint would have dated from the mid-1970s. This photograph shows BCOL 7104 in 1980, repainted into the BCR dark green scheme. It is carrying a BCR flat deck trailer and a BCR refrigerated van trailer. This is a later repaint and stencil scheme, and it likely dates from the late 1970s. I scratch built 2 of these cars in styrene, using BLMA tread plate for the runways and Briggs models, aprons, and hitches. I included a full brake system underneath. A dedicated build thread for these cars can be found on the Railwire forum under N and Z scale topics. I elected to finish one car in the original PGE black scheme and the other in the BCR light green scheme. These were finished with acrylic paints and custom decals. And here are the finished cars. PGE 7102 is seen with a BCR reefer van and a dry van, and BCOL 7100 is seen with 2 flat deck trailers. I've not yet attempted to model any of the later trailer flat cars, but I'm going to review them here for you. The next order came from National Steel Car in 1964, and these were also finished in black with yellow highlights. With these cars, the length was increased to 89 foot 1, which allowed them to carry a 40-foot and a 45-foot trailer if necessary. The 10 cars were numbered 7111 to 7120. This is the builder's photograph of PGE 7111 at the National Steel Car plant in Hamilton, Ontario, prior to delivery. Some of the trailer flat cars were repurposed for service as bridges on logging roads after retirement. These 2 photographs are included to show some details of the 7111 to 7120 series cars. This car had been repainted for British Columbia Railway during the 1970s. During the 1960s, the PGE sourced several series of different freight cars from Vancouver Iron and Engineering, including this series of 10 trailer flat cars. The length was 89 foot 1 again, and they featured a unique twin center sill design in which the 2 center sills came together before each bolster in a sort of wishbone arrangement. They were characterized by their comparatively heavy side sills. They were numbered 7121 to 7130, and again they were finished in black with yellow highlights. This photograph dates from the mid-1970s, and it's at North Vancouver. And another photograph of a car from this series from Vancouver Iron Engineering, and here this illustrates the difference in the depth of the side sills on these cars compared with the National Steel Car built ones, which you can see just right there. This photograph also dates from the mid-1970s. I took these photographs of BCOL 7125 in 1997. The car has been repainted in dark green with the interim BC Rail logo. And this shows you what the decks look like on those cars. In 1971, the PGE received an order for 50 cars from National Steel Car. These were similar to the earlier order, but the length was increased to 89'4", and they were finished in light green with yellow highlights, including the tops of the tie-down racks and the side handbrake lever. This car was photographed at the NSC plant prior to delivery in 1971. The series was numbered 7131 to 7180, and these were the last trailer flat cars that were delivered as PGE cars. And then a repeat order for 25 identical cars was received from National Steel Car in 1973. These cars came painted and lettered for the British Columbia Railway. The railway's new name was displayed on plates affixed to the car sides. And here we see BCOL 7200 at Prince George shortly after delivery in 1973. These two photographs of BCOL 7186 are included to show some of the details on the later NSC cars. Note the solid tread plate runways on these cars, and also the profile of the side sills with those gussets. The last series of trailer flat cars to be acquired during the British Columbia Railway era, so prior to 1984, was the 7206 to 7245 series, which was received from Marine Industries Limited in 1975. These were also 89'4" in length. These detail photographs illustrate some of the design differences between the NSC and MIL cars. The principal differences are the arrangement of the side sills. They sort of have a stepped profile to them, and also the open grate runways. There were 40 cars in this series. Before concluding this video, I will speak briefly to trailer on flat car operations on the British Columbia Railway during the 1970s. As previously mentioned, the British Columbia Railway shipped its own fleet of highway trailers up and down the line. These included dry vans, reefer vans, heater vans, and also flat deck trailers. These provided the railway with a less than carload capacity and a local delivery option. The railway also shipped trailers for several regular customers who had operations in northern British Columbia. The railway had trailer ramps at North Vancouver, Williams Lake, Quesnel, Prince George, Dawson Creek, Fort St. John, and Fort Nelson. Those last three places offered access to the Alaska Highway. All the ramp tracks were north connected with the ramps at their south end, so the trailer flat cars always traveled with aprons facing south and hitches to the north end of the cars. The trailers were considered to be high priority traffic due to the prevalence of food and beverage products and urgent deliveries. Trailer flat cars were conveyed north on train number 23, which was scheduled as a third-class freight that gave it priority over southbound freight traffic traveling in the superior direction. On train 23, the trailers were marshaled at the head end for rapid set-out along the way, and trailer flat cars coming south were traditionally at the rear of the train as they were somewhat lighter, and that was important when descending steep grades. This is the trailer ramp at Chetwynd, and as you can see, it's a single track. The ramp is basically earth with gravel on top, and it's framed in concrete. And this allowed the trailers to get up to the height of the decks of the trailer flat cars. You can also see a walkway along one side of the track. That was so the carman could come along and raise the aprons once all the trailers were loaded. And then there's also some lighting for operations at night. This photograph from June 1985 shows the Dawson Creek switcher approaching Dawson Creek, and we can see 3 trailer flat cars at the head of the train carrying 5 BCR van trailers. The trailers are marshaled at the head of the train so that they can be set out very quickly upon arrival at Dawson Creek. And we see that 2 of those trailer flat cars are 89 feet, and one of them is 52'6", one of the flat car conversions. So that concludes this look at the railway's trailer flat cars. I will cover the railway's own fleet of highway trailers in a future equipment video. I would like to thank the individuals who've made their prototype photographs available for inclusion in this presentation, and their images obviously helped to make this series of reference videos possible. and I'm very grateful for their support. Thank you for watching, and I hope to be back with another equipment video soon. Until then, peace be with you.